Welcome back, my dear listeners. Before we begin today's story, please show some love by subscribing to the channel and liking the video. Now then, let us begin. Every minute spent worrying about the way things were is a moment stolen from creating the way things can be. Robin Sharma. What would you do if your world came crashing down in an instant, out of the blue, totally unexpected? How would you react to the gut punch of blindingly cruel betrayal? Could you keep your wits about you when the love you'd given unconditionally to your spouse was spit on and treated worse than a diehard Giants fan at Dodger Stadium? Would you keep your cool, blow a gasket, become violent, or just break down sobbing? Well, I can tell you from experience, you never know until you're in that moment, and I hope you never have to find out. My name is Tim Gibson, and exactly 1 year ago today I found myself in that spot. I was standing just outside our bedroom. The door was ajar. My lovely wife of 6 years, Amber, was in the middle of a hot and steamy duck session with my boss, Mr. Glenn Davis. Amber was a fine-looking woman, 5 feet 7 inches, short-cropped blonde hair with a lovely 32-year-old body. Like most couples, we fought and bickered with each other from time to time, but I adored her and thought we enjoyed one another as much or more than other marriages I observed. She never gave me reason to suspect what I came upon that fateful day. I was supposed to be on my way to Houston, but my flight out of Dallas was canceled at the last minute due to bad spring storms around the airport. I grabbed my phone, rebooked for first thing in the morning, and headed home thinking about a delightful evening with Amber. Now, with mouth gaping open, I was trying to cope with the biggest shock of my life. For the next few minutes, I didn't retreat or advance. I just stood, frozen in despair, realizing the life I thought I had was over. He pulled out of her mouth and slapped her face with his clock. Amber, you are such a good little clocksucker. Do you get this sloppy and excited with Tim? No, baby, she purred, trying to get her mouth back on his stick. Your clock is so big and beautiful, so much better than Timmy. WTF? She never called me Timmy, and he didn't have more than a half-inch at most on me, and not even slightly thicker. Certainly nothing for which she should be mocking me. Well, you better beg me for it if you really want it. Give it to me, Glenn, give me your big fat clock. I love how you control me, lover. He slipped it back into her mouth for another minute or two before lifting her up and throwing her onto our marriage bed. For the next 10 minutes he ducked her every which way, each one eliciting eager sounds of participation from my slut wife. Duck yes, deep and hard, baby, give it to me. Glenn was getting vocal as well. Ayo, duck yes, Amber, your kitty is so tight and sweet. I love ducking your married kitty, making it mine. Yes, she hissed, it's yours, baby, you've taken it from little Timmy. Own my kitty stud. It was so cliché I thought I was watching Korn, not seeing my wife having sex with my boss. I started out by asking, what would you do with such a god-awful mess? I'll tell you my response. After a couple of minutes realizing they had no idea I was right outside the bedroom, I began to come to my senses. I started videoing them. I recorded about 3 minutes, which was the longest 3 minutes of my life. I then backed away quietly and went down to my home office in the basement and grabbed something out of my desk. Having taken all of 5 minutes to come up with a plan for the rest of my life, I crept back up the stairs and moved close to the door again. The action had stopped for the moment and the pillow talk had begun. Oh, my Glenn, you're so terrible, but you always rock my world. I see stars when you duck me. She had one arm and one leg draped over him and was caressing his face. Amber, you are beyond amazing. I must tell you, I was surprised at the Christmas party when you asked to see my office and then let me bend you over my desk and duck you while little Timmy was becoming an unknowing cluck. Yes, I do love him and he treats me so well, but sometimes I need to be taken and just ducked like a hoe. I knew you'd do that to me the first time I laid eyes on you. Tim is sweet, but when you belittle him as you plow me, I come so hard I almost pass out. I love what we do together. I hope you can keep sending him out of town on business. No worries there, sweet thing, he'll be our cluck for many years to come. With that, he rolled her over and knelt behind her. She raised her bum up, offering it to him. Glenn slapped it firmly a few times before he took her from behind. This time, it was time to act. For better or worse, I put my rash plan into motion. I entered the bedroom and moved to the foot of the bed looking bewildered and hurt, trying my best not to appear to be a threat. "Oh no, honey. Glenn, what are you two doing? Why are you having sex in our bed?" Tears began to well up in my eyes as I tried to look devastated and defeated. At least for a moment Amber was shocked and fearful. "Oh, honey, what are you doing at home? Why didn't you call me? Glenn and I can explain." "Please, explain," I begged, staggering backwards and dropping into the armchair across from the bed. "Oh, why would the two of you do this to me?" I asked in a whiny voice. Glenn picked up on this immediately. "Oh well, Timmy, it is time you found out. Your wife is one hot sex pistol who needs a good ducking you and your little stick can't provide. She may be your wife, but she's my slut and there isn't anything you can do about it, Clucky." Amber was lost for a second but picked up on this. She smirked and jumped in. "Yes, Timmy, Glenn ducks me so good. You're my sweet little hubby and always will be, but Glenn is my man, my alpha male. He comes over and ducks me in our marriage bed because he wants to. I can't stop him, I don't want to stop him, I love how he puts it to me. I know you can't stop him either. He's so much bigger and better than you." "So, little Timmy," Glenn said tauntingly. "You can stay and watch if you want, but you need to ask me to duck your wife. Beg me on your knees to put my clock in your wife's kitty and give her what you can't. If you're a good boy, I'll let you eat her kitty and suck my clock clean when we're done, but you better plead with me for the privilege." "Amber, is this really what you want?" I groaned as if trying to keep a small portion of my manhood. "Please don't make me, baby. Don't make me beg him to duck you. Please don't force me to watch him and then clean both of you with my mouth. Sorry, sweet little boy, but yes, that is exactly what I want, and it is what you're going to do right now. Beg little Timmy, beg Glenn to duck me and then allow you to suck his clock and my kitty." I lowered my head as if completely defeated and begged the way they wanted me to. "Good boy," Glenn responded as he was again rock hard and pounding into my wife from behind. Amber was facing me and leering at me until the impact of his thrashing caused her to close her eyes. Glenn's eyes were scrunched tight as he smacked her bum and plowed into her. This gave me the chance I was looking for. I stood quietly with my right arm concealed from their view. "One more thing please, Mr. Davis, sir." "Yes, Cluck, what is it?" I raised my right hand and the gun it contained. "Die, you piece of shit." I paused for 2 seconds before squeezing the trigger. A pop, 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 pop. Macho Man Glenn screamed "NNNO," holding his hands up while at the same time pissing himself and his lover, my skunk wife. I've never been shot with a pellet gun at close range, but I assume it hurts like hell. However, it sure won't kill you. I gave him a half-dozen welts and he was crying like a baby. I laughed at what a was her big stud really was. As Glenn began to settle down, he realized his alpha status was in deep shit. He decided to come at me. Bad choice on his part. I'm not some black belt karate guy, but I've been in a few scrapes, and I was royally pissed. 5 minutes later, Glenn had lost a couple teeth and probably had a broken rib or two. He was lying on the ground, naked, with serious bruises to go along with his welts. My foot was squarely planted on his chest. "Stay down on the floor or I'll beat your bum some more, Glenny boy." For her part, Amber was trying to cover herself up and was sobbing some nonsense about how she loved only me, and it was all a big mistake. Her excuses were just as cliché as her dirty talk a few minutes earlier. I remained calm, picked my pellet gun back up and aimed it at her. "Amber, look at me." She continued to sob, her face buried in her hands. "Amber," I said more firmly, "look at me right now, you ducking slut." That got her attention. I only gave her a couple of pellets. One in the shoulder and one on her upper right leg. She yelped in pain. "It hurts like a witch, doesn't it, slut? Please, Tim, please stop." I tossed the gun on the chair next to me while pushing just a little harder on Glenn's chest. He was groaning in pain. I began to address my horse wife. "Let's chat for a moment, Amber." However, Amber was still a bit hysterical and not focusing. "Well, I thought, almost void of emotion, I guess we're going to have to do this the hard way." I walked over to the bed, grabbed her by the hair, lifted her face and slapped her. I didn't smack her anywhere near as hard as I could have or wanted to, but enough to get her to settle down and pay attention. Amber looked at me and listened to me. She was truly shocked by my actions. I'd rarely if ever raised my voice at her and had never even considered laying a hand on her. She was beyond flummoxed. "What, Tim?" "I'm listening," she said much more softly, her voice trembling with fear. "Well, my dear, you've made quite a mess of everything. I thought we loved and adored each other, but clearly, I don't even know you. My heart is crushed, and I may never trust another human being again, so thanks so much for that gift." "Tim, Amber, shut the duck up. I'm talking, you're listening. After I go, you can talk to Duckwad Glenny boy here all you want." "Going? Where are you going, Tim?" "You must stay here, we can move past this, I know you love me." Leaning toward her and grabbing her by the hair, I pulled her up. We were nose to nose. "Amber, if you don't close your trap, I'm going to slap you again, do you understand?" "Yes." I released her and she fell back onto the urine-stained sheets. "As I said, you've crushed me mentally and emotionally. Your cruelty defies understanding. I'm not perfect, but I don't deserve the shit you and your lover tried to pull on me here today. So no long talks to sort it out or try to make it. I'm leaving. It will take me a day or so to get organized and begin my journey to where I'm going. Wherever it is, it will be beyond your reach. I'll be keeping you and lover boy here tied up for a couple days so I can get where I need to go before you or he call the cops. I'll drop your cell phones in the river on my way out of town, so you won't be able to contact anyone. You'll be trussed up good and tight, so the next couple of days will be painful but not deadly. Nobody will know to look for Glenn here, and since you don't work, nobody will discover either of you in the next couple of days. Once I'm out of harm's way, I'll let the cops know to drop by and release you. I'm sure at that point your wimp-bummed boyfriend will file charges. Hell, knowing now how little you love me, you'll probably try to have me arrested too. No worries though, I'll be too far gone." Amber didn't respond, she just collapsed onto the floor and sobbed. The next 2 days were busy. Untie Amber so she could use the bathroom, tie Amber back up. Go to the bank, drain the accounts, sell her car, cash out my 401k, untie Amber to use the bathroom, tie Amber back up, research places to live, walk by stinking, crumpled Glenn and kick his nuts, have a beer. At the end of day 2 I was set. The bedroom stank to high heaven and Amber was weak from lack of food. No worries though, she had put on a couple pounds over the last few years, so she could chalk this up to a small weight loss program. In a day or two she'd be fine physically. Mentally and emotionally might be a different question. But then again, I didn't give a flying duck. My final few hours prior to leaving were a bit of a blur. As I said, nobody would look for Amber anytime soon since she didn't have a job or volunteer anywhere. Her folks had died a couple of years earlier and her only sister lived halfway across the country. They only spoke on the phone during the weekends. I'm sure Glenn's wife would be looking for him, but I seriously doubted she would search for him at our house. The office folks would assume I was in Houston until Friday, however, I figured on the safe side I better get gone now. After packing a couple bags, giving Glenn one more kick and smirking at my completely demoralized slut wife, I skedaddled. 20 hours and 2 plane rides later I arrived at my destination. Being a man of my word, I called the cops back in Dallas. I also gave Glenn's wife a text with the video I'd shot attached. I then tossed my cell phone in the next river I saw. I assumed she divorced him but didn't bother to try and find out. If she kept him, it would probably be a long time until he could properly duck her. Maybe she'd cluck him. That was a year ago today. As I sit in a small cafe in an obscure corner of Montenegro, I feel some slight remorse for what I did. It was hateful and vengeful, but what they did was beyond cruel. As I said, I had about 5 minutes to decide how I was going to react, and it only took me about 5 seconds to determine being a cluck and submitting to humiliation was not an option. Everything else flowed from that. Why Montenegro? Well, a couple of reasons. First, probably most people reading this story will have to dig out a world map to even find where it is. And secondly, it is one of the nicer non-extradition countries you can get to with very little preparation. Once I settled in, I learned the people are friendly but not nosy. The climate is okay, and I'm even beginning to pick up on the language, and that's a wrap for today's story. Thanks for hanging out with us here today. To catch more awesome narrations, hit that subscribe button, drop a thumbs up, and comment your favorite part. And hey, don't forget to hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we drop the next story.